Well, there's maybe one man here in this room who has an answer to ad blocking. That man is definitely Pierre CHAPPAZ, co-founder and executive chairman of Teads. Please, Pierre, join us on stage. And will ad blocking kill the advert business or not? That's the question.
Good morning. Is it still the morning?
It's still the morning.
Hello, everybody. Teads stands for Technology for Advertising. It happened that our company was founded in Montpellier 5 years ago. It was a 5-people company, and we are now 500 people all over the world in 21 different countries, because we have been bringing something fundamentally new to the advertising industry. Our mission is to reinvent video advertising. We are working with the most prestigious media all over the planet, publishers like Washington Post, Condé Nast, Time Inc., Nikkei in Japan, Le Monde, Le Figaro, Les Echos in this country, Corriere della Sera in Italy, they are Italian in the room, El País in Spain, or Globo in Brazil. We have been providing these publishers with our technology and services, and we have built the largest, the #1 independent video advertising platform in the world, competing directly with Google and Facebook. So I will focus my presentation around ad blocking for the very good reason that we contribute to the answer to the ad blocking issue. Is it a serious issue? Yes. You see here that around 400 million people have already installed an ad blocker on their smartphones. This is more the case in Asia than in Europe, but it's also happening in Europe. And if you look at desktop, in France, 30% of the users have installed an ad blocker. Only Poland has a higher adoption rate. You see that the lower countries like Switzerland are in the range of 10%. This is very significant and growing. So let's try to understand why is that happening. Before we enter into this analysis of the reason why people are installing ad blockers, let's admit that it is costing a fortune to the industry. It is costing to the publishers $22 billion per year of lost revenue. This is absolutely huge. So the publishers are trying to fight. What do? They try legal actions against AO, who is the main publisher of AdBlock Plus, the most spread ad blocker solution. Legal action don't work. You cannot prevent users to install an ad blocker. It's one of their rights. What you may try to succeed in is prevent AO from turning into a mafia who will let the advertising go through against a 30% tax, which is their business model. But legal action won't fix the issue. Then the media try to educate the user, basically to explain to the ad blocker user when it comes on the site, please deactivate your ad blocker if you want to access my content because I have to pay my journalist. This may work for some media. For the high-end publishers, if you are Financial Times, for instance, this works reasonably well because the content of Financial Times is pretty unique. It will be difficult to find the same quality of content on the same topic elsewhere on the web. So some of the users may deactivate their ad blocker in this case. But the way it works is that next time the ad blocker user comes back, the ad blocker will be activated again by default. So this won't fix the issue either. It can help a bit. Third strategy is to try to counter the ad blocking technology with anti-ad blocking technology. And this may work in some cases. For instance, in this country, TF1, the #1 TV network, is using an anti-ad blocker technology which works pretty well and which, by the way, was created by two of the ex-founders of Teads. If you look at the overall advertising market, for the publishers, for the big publishers, it's very clear that survival is at stake. Because you see here in red, this is the paper print revenues. Look how fast they are shrinking for both magazines and newspapers. So you will tell me, yes, but digital is growing very fast. It's true. But digital is eaten, literally eaten, by Google and Facebook. Actually, if you look at the digital market as a whole, Google and Facebook are taking more than 100% of the growth, which means that the part left for the other publishers and the rest of the industry is shrinking. As a result, the digital revenues do not compensate for the publishers the loss of print revenue. So what can we change? Let's try to understand why the users are installing ad blockers. I was asked to talk about privacy, and I will. But actually, we did a lot of research on the reason why people are installing ad blockers, and privacy is not the first reason. The first reason is that people don't like bad advertising experiences which are ruining their online navigation. Basically, we all hate, these kind of ads who are blocking you when you want to access a content. This is easy to eliminate with an ad blocker, and so many people are doing it. This is the number one reason. These kinds of primitive advertising, like interstitial, full-page ad, you want to read an article, paf, you are blocked. Or unskippable videos, you want to watch a video, let's say a very short video on a sport event, for instance, and you are forced to go through an ad, or sometimes forced to go through 4 or 5 different ads. It's terrible. It's a terrible user experience. And internet deserves better advertising experiences. Internet is the most sophisticated media of all. So why would advertising be a pain on the internet? Why, if you think about magazines, advertising is a pleasure. So you see aversion to intrusive ad formats is really global. You see across all countries. Number one motivation for installing ad blockers, between 60 and 75% of the people are saying it's my number one motivation. But if you ask them, well, if you would have skippable ads, choice to view or not to view the ad, would you install an ad blocker? They say no. In this case, I would not install an ad blocker. So this is very clear. Now let's look at privacy. The same users are also concerned by privacy, but you see way less. It's between 36% and 55%. Actually, privacy, we'll enter in more details, is a concept which is not very well understood by users. It's difficult for them to put something precise behind privacy. But what we can be sure about is that we are seeing this message, very strong message from the users who are installing ad blockers, which must be a wake-up call for the industry. We cannot continue like that, because if the industry continues like that, it will simply dry. Revenues will vanish. So we must change the way we deliver advertising on the net. It's not just a question of data, it's also a question of user experience. With Teads, we are part of the Coalition for Better Ads, which has been put together recently by the biggest brand in the world, Google, Facebook, the biggest publishers and the biggest agencies. And we are working together to try to build a consensus on the do's and don'ts. What should we clearly ban, and what is a good experience? The good news is that when you provide a good experience to a user, it provides a good return on investment to the brand, because there is more engagement. If you show me an ad which is relevant to me, and you present it to me in a respectful way, I'm not forced to consume it, but if I am interested, I may look at it, then I will engage much more than if you try to force me by throwing an ad in my face, which is not relevant and at the wrong time, I will never engage. So it's possible to build what I call a virtuous circle between the user, the publisher, and the brand. The user wants to access the content without paying. The brands want to reach the consumers and engage them in a positive way, and the publisher needs revenue. What is user-friendly? What can user-friendly advertising be? It should never block content access. We should ban primitive forms of advertising like interstitials, full-page pop-ups. All video ads should be skippable. And we must respect data privacy. But when it comes to data privacy in Europe, the regulation is pretty strong and clear. If you don't want advertisers to track your cookies, you can opt out. I'm sure you are all aware of this, and you have all seen when you come on a site, this message saying, well, we are tracking your cookie, do you agree? If you don't, then opt out, you're not tracked. Now, one word about the advertising experience itself and what we have been bringing to the market with Teads. Basically, we have said ads should be treated as a content which should be proposed to the user. If the user is interested, he can decide to consume it. If he's not interested, he must be able to avoid it without being annoyed in any way. And we came with this very simple but very powerful idea of native video advertising, which means video ads which are presented as a standalone content on the web page of the publishers which are working with us. This is our main solution, which is launched soundless. The sound is activated by the user. If the user doesn't want to see the ad, he can continue to read his article. If he wants to see the ad and get the sound, he can tap on the ad and get it full screen if he turns the telephone. And it is providing fantastic results for the brands because not only it's very well accepted, but this is in a context which is highly premium, because this is sitting in the articles of the most premium publishers. It's a very clean context. It's not blinking everywhere, with ads everywhere. So this is opt-in marketing, which works. This is for video what AdSense is for links. When you see AdSense links on a Google page, you don't feel it's aggressive. You feel it's interesting. Most of the time, it makes sense. It's relevant. It can be the same thing with video advertising, and even more if we can exploit a layer of data to make the ad even more relevant. When you ask to the ad blocker users which is the format you really consider to be the most intrusive, you see on the left, ad blocker on mobile, on the right, ad blocker on desktop. It's very consistent. They hate pre-roll. Pre-roll is these ads which are placed before video content that you cannot avoid. And they are fine with this kind of ads. And everybody should be fine. I mean, this is an experience which is an experience of quality like the one you have in magazines. This can even add value to the publisher instead of hurting the user experience. Advertising experience must clearly be defined around mobile. I'm sure we all agree with me in this room. The audience of our publishers is 60 to 70% mobile. It means it must work very, very fast. The content of the ad should be adapted to mobile with shorter ads. You don't watch a 2-minute ad or even a 30-second ad on a mobile. The attention time you are dedicating to this kind of content is more in the range of 10 seconds, maximum 15 seconds. Then you can also think about producing vertical ads which are adapted to the screen of the smartphone instead of TV copies which are horizontal, which we do more and more. And then in those countries where the data plans are limited, we should provide to the users the option not to see ads when they are not connected on a Wi-Fi. The good news is that Google is working very well on all these matters through a technology which is called Accelerated Mobile Pages, AMP, which is the future of the mobile web experience, which is already deployed for part of the traffic. When you do a search on Google, often you see on the top of the results AMP pages, and you will notice that the speed of load of the page is comparable to the speed of an app. So it completely eliminates the frustration of the users who feel the page is too long to load, maybe because of the ads. We have been able to integrate our technology in a Google AMP framework, and as a result, the page is loading 85% faster than a traditional mobile web page. Then you can do more, and you can do more specifically if you leverage data. Advertising is going programmatic. The promise of programmatic is to leverage data to make the ad more targeted, better targeted, and more relevant. And ads can also become interactive. The difference between the internet and the television is that the internet is interactive by nature. So why not leverage this interactivity to engage the user and to offer an even better experience to the user? So speaking about targeting, so we enter now more into the, call it privacy question, which is more the data question. You see that the users are happy to share data about their interests and to have it leveraged by advertisers. They're happy to share, it's not a surprise, data about the brands that they like the most. Hopefully because they would like to see ads from these brands. So there is no global rejection by the users of data leveraged by advertising. There are certain kind of data that they are happy to share and certain kind of data that they don't like to share. You see, for instance, here, web browsing history is something that they don't like to share. Probably because if you think about it, this is really private. This is really private. Why should I share my navigation history on the web? Search history is in between. Shopping history is in between. Location is very balanced. So it's interesting to distinguish between the different kind of data that the users are ready to share or really unwilling to share. Also, which strikes me is that the user perception is not the same across all countries. So you see in red on top of this chart, nobody wants to talk about his to share his financial information, his tax information. That's understandable. At the bottom, on the contrary, as we saw before, brand preferences, no problem to share. Age and gender, no problem to share. Product views online, purchase history. And now if you look at the differences, it's interesting to see on surfing history, you see in the middle, Germany and France users don't like sharing surfing history at all, but in the other countries, it's not that sensitive. So there are clear cultural differences, and it's interesting. It's food for thought. Why is that, and in which way will it evolve? Actually, the users are ready to share data when they see the value of sharing the data. This is Pokémon Go. Pokémon Go, in a couple of months, has been the biggest personal location database in the world. And users were happy to share this information. So basically, the users are happy to share if they see the value of sharing. If they suspect that they share for some unknown reason that this data will be used in a way which is not very clear and, worse than that, not clearly said, then they won't do it. So it brings us back to the user experience. Everything is about the user experience. Advertising must be defined around the user experience, and data is part of the user experience. Speaking briefly about interactivity, people like interactive ads because they are engaging, because sometimes they are almost like games, immersive. 58% of the users like interactivity. Here is an example of one of our technologies, which is what we call 360. It's a campaign that we did for Chanel. You can navigate into the ad, which is a 360 ad. You can play. The right term is play. You can play with the ad. This is a great user experience. This is the absolute contrary of the bad user experience which we see still too often, which is I throw an ad in your face, which is boring, not relevant, and blocking you. Here, if the user doesn't want to see the ad, he simply continues reading the article, and the ad will stop automatically. And anyway, he will not have sound unless he decides to have the sound. So we should certainly, how do you say? En français, nous dirions, il ne faut pas jeter le bébé avec l'eau du bain. How do you say it in English? Don't throw the baby with the water of the bath.
Almost. And actually, as far as we're into an immersive journey into trust and privacy, that's all we have time for. If you can just wrap it up.
Okay. So the last development I wanted to briefly talk about is what we call data-driven creative optimization. You can adapt the creative to each and every user segment based on data. Third-party data, first-party data, like audience data. Is this user a man, a woman? Where is he located? What time of the day is it? What is the weather outside? Depending on your brand, on your product, you can leverage this kind of data. I'll show you quickly two examples. This is a campaign we did for Zoopla, which is the biggest real estate website in the UK. We locate the user, and he is able, inside the video, to browse the catalog of Zoopla and see what are the properties which can be interesting for him around his current location, which can be on his desktop or which can be on his mobile. He has access to all the functions, the features of the website inside the video, without having to leave the site and go elsewhere. And finally, as I believe you are all hungry and waiting for lunch.
Well, actually, we're waiting for the final speaker,
yes.
But afterwards there will be lunch.
Okay, so I'm sure you won't go to McDonald's today, but this is my last example. It's a campaign we run for McDonald's. It's lunchtime, so we know it's lunchtime, and we leverage this information to suggest a special lunch to the user who can locate the McDonald's around his location. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so
Have a
much,
good day.
Pierre.